Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Marco Dure Show. It's Thursday, December 4th, 2025. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today's show to hear all the relevant, groundbreaking news here in America and around the world, the only show where the facts are facts and hard truths thrive. Please don't forget to follow the show wherever you might get your podcast. It's now available on all streaming apps for your listening pleasure, so be sure to share with as many people as possible so we can make reasoning thrive again in America. Hope everyone's ready for the best hour radio has to offer, uncensored and ready to go as always. Let's get right to work with some very relevant information coming from Fox News this morning regarding the D.C. pipe bomb case. I brought this up with you I think it was either last week or the week before. From The Blaze, there was some interesting information coming out regarding possibly an FBI agent, a female, by the way, being involved in this case. So when I saw this morning, I jumped right on it. It says there a suspect who allegedly planted a pipe bomb blocks from the U.S. Capitol on January 5th, 2021, is now in federal custody after nearly a 5-year investigation. This is what law enforcement is telling Fox News Digital on Thursday morning. It says the FBI arrested the suspect, a male living in Virginia, early on Thursday morning, the sources have said. The man's name is Brian Cole Jr. of Woodbridge, Virginia. Authorities discovered the two pipe bombs near the Republican and Democratic National Committee's headquarters around the same time that thousands of protesters a few blocks away from the Capitol dissented on January 6, 2021, as a result of the 2020 elections. This is interesting to me. And again, I'm wondering the information that brought this information to light, why they believe it's this Brian Cole Jr., this 30-year-old from Woodbridge, Virginia. I'm interested to know this. Now, from the surveillance footage, this is where they're keying this from. Originally, they said that this was somebody within the FBI itself. And it was a huge, groundbreaking story, as you can imagine. And they said that the characteristics, obviously they can use the data footage that they can forensically audit how one person walks. Again, the way that someone's gait is, if you will. And again, it's very interesting to see how they're coming to this suspect, though. Because what they're saying is the suspect was, seen wearing a gray hoodie, Nike Air Max, a mask. Remember, this is right during the COVID pandemic, so wearing a mask on public wasn't odd. Actually, yes, it was, but of course, it was acceptable at the time. Wearing glasses, wearing gloves, but the person's identity had been long unknown. So this initial investigation slowed up under about 2 months ago. By the end of February of 2021, and a possible result of credible leads drying up at the time, according to the congressional report. So think about this. It took 5 years to get this guy. Or gal, depending on whom we believe, of course. The lingering mystery led a faction of President Donald Trump's base to raise concerns about the timing of the pipe bomb incident and security failures surrounding it. Some of it obviously elevated the theories that the Biden administration was not forthright to the public about the facts of the case. But now FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino has suggested that the planting of the bombs was an inside job prior to joining the Bureau. That's what, again, that confirms the case by the special investigation from The Blaze. And now it says here in May, he told Fox News authorities were closing in on suspects. So, I wonder what actually ties this man to the case itself. I mean, did they find prototypes in his apartment? Did somebody tell on him? Is he affiliated with the FBI in any shape or form? I mean, we should know about this, obviously, as the case unfolds. But again, I'm interested to see this because originally, as I told you, they believe this was a female inside the FBI who actually did this. In fact, one of the whistleblowers said, this is one of our own. So I don't know who is pointing to or why they're pointing to Brian Cole Jr. And again, 5 years? How can we not know about this after roughly 5 years? Again, it's amazing to me. Well, not 5 years or 4 years, but almost 5 years. I mean, it's almost January next month. This is not good, folks. This is not good. It takes this long to figure out who these people are that are causing strife in our communities, of course. Again, I don't know if it's this guy. I'm open to hear the evidence. But why would somebody in the department say, this is she's one of our own? Again, using the footage of how a person walks, you can tell this mirrors how somebody else was walking. You can compare the two. And it got roughly, I think it was a 94% match with somebody within the FBI. That's what the story was, at least a couple of weeks ago. So again, I'm open to hearing why this is Brian Cole Jr. Maybe it is him. Maybe he's working with that person in the FBI. I don't know. But I do want to know why. What is the motive behind this? And again, this guy gets away roughly 5 years later after putting 2 pipe bombs near both the RNC and the DNC in D.C., and we don't know anything about this guy for 5 years. But we do know, obviously, a grandmother who walked into the Capitol by, her hair color, the side of her face. We can figure out where she is in the blink of an eye. No problem there. So it's just odd to me. The Biden administration does nothing with this. We can't find people who are leaving bombs now in D.C. It's amazing to me. So I wanted to bring this up to you because, again, I found it to be obviously very important. Obviously, we don't want people who are leaving bombs, especially in the threats of terrorism, to seep through in D.C., of course. I'll be interested to know why where the evidence points to this guy, though, because they're not telling us as of just yet. At least I haven't seen anything as of right now on Fox News. Maybe the story will develop later in the day. So we'll keep an eye on that, and if anything does pop up with that, I'll go over that in more detail with you tomorrow. But I just wanted to let everybody know somebody now is in custody. Yesterday I was going to go over an article in The Hill, and it's an interesting article. It really relates to teenage health. And I know you might be saying, what the hell do I care about teenage health? Well, obviously some people listening have children. Maybe someday you'll have children. But it's a very important topic to discuss. And again, it relates to adults as well. But it asks, what age is too young for a cell phone? Studies now link devices to obesity and depression. Could this be why Gen Y right now? Is the generation coming up? I think so. Or Gen Alpha Y? Who knows? We never know. It says their parents across the country are now stocking up on holiday gifts, but a new study from the Journal of Pediatrics suggests a new cell phone could have unintended, dangerous consequences for some children. Now, the study looked at the emotional, the physical effects of roughly 10,588 participants in the Adolescent Brain Cognitive Development Study, or ABCD study. Now, along with age, which they first looked at, of whom obtains the smartphone, or not too smartphone, that's what I call it. The age at which you first get this cell phone, and of course the ABCD study described it as the largest long-term study of brain development and child health in the United States. So this is very important. So I want everyone to understand this. The researchers, obviously behind this, did a peer-reviewed pediatric study and found that children that had the smartphones by the time they turned 12 years of age were at a greater risk of depression, obesity, and insufficient sleep patterns. Wow. And by the way, I'm going to go over some other big issues with these cell phones that also relate to children. They're not talking about in this study per se, but I want to go over this. But look at this. You have half of adolescents today, aged 11 to 17, use their not too smartphones for an average of 4.5 hours a day. Think about that, though. Your kids in school for what? 7-8 hours a day? What, do they come home and just look at their phone nonstop? Of course not. They're looking at the phone during class as well. A big problem. And again, as a former educator, I can tell you that number is probably really low. 4.5 hours? I don't think. I'm sure it's much, much higher than that. Think about the screen time with video games, with the iPads, the cell phones, television, God knows what else. They're looking at screens all day. And again, that blue light, again, is not good for the eyes in general. For an elementary school student, or for any teen, by the way, for that matter, to stare at a blue screen let's say it is the 4.5 hours. Again, it's just not good. But the physical health as well. What are you doing when you're looking at these screens? Well, obviously you're lounging, you're sedentary, you're not moving, you're lazy, you're not outside getting fresh air or sunlight, as any young child really should be doing. Back when I was growing up, we were all outside every single day in the summertime. Every single day. No one was inside watching television or anything like that, or playing video games. Maybe in the later evening, you'd go inside, but for the most part, we were outside the entire time. The entire day, we're outside. Riding bikes and pools, playing, street hockey, whatever we were doing, we were outside. Skateboarding, all these things. Today, that's not the case. Kids, I drive around, I see no one outside anymore. What the hell's going on here? Obviously, it's wintertime here where I am in New York, but even when I was in California, where it's beautiful, 365 days a year pretty much, kids are not outside when they ought to be. And why? Again, it's the allure to the new technologies. So now, if the smartphone is out in school, too, this is another big problem. I can assure you, again, as a former teacher, they aren't listening either. So we have the negative effect of that as well. And by the way, you could also look to things like ChatGPT. Kids are now using these for written assignments. In other words, they're plagiarizing, they're cheating on them. So they're not getting the full experience of learning because they're relying so heavily on this technology. And the schools push them in this direction. They give them iPads or Chromebooks or what have you in the classrooms themselves. And again, it's not conducive to a good learning environment. We could also discuss the dopamine rush that these kids get from these iPhones as well. Rewiring the brain, the instant gratification, again, not good. And again, we have stronger negatives like the increased risks of depression. And again, an adolescent that owns a smartphone by age 12, get this is what the study says, are more likely to experience depression than compared to their peers that do not. And again, think what they view. What's the reason for the depression? Well, again, what are they looking at? Again, they have open access to everything they could possibly want. And I'd be willing to bet you it's probably for more worse things than good things. I highly doubt they're researching history or science on these phones. They're playing video games or what have you. Again, comparing themselves to celebrities or people who are so-called influencers. Think about the Kardashian family. The filters, the plastic surgery, all these things. And these young children see this. It's like, I want to look like this. I want to be beautiful like this. Forget the fact that half their face is plastic. There's more plastic on their faces than in a Mattel Barbie doll. But the idea that kids see this at a young age, they're very impressionable. And again, that leads to, obviously, insecurities, lack of self-confidence, all these things. And again, as I said before, when they're on these phones for 4.5 hours, 5 hours, 6, 7, 8 hours a day, along with the video games, the television, you have a rate of increased obesity because of the lack of exercise. They're not moving around like they ought to. Kids should be moving around all day. They have lots and lots of energy, as I'm sure most of you can remember. Which brings me to the next point. The phones, the kids are on them right before they go to bed. Again, if they're on their phone and they acquire it by the age of 12, within a year of that, by age 13, they will experience, according to the study, sleeping problems. Here's the problem that kids have with this. Number one, they're addicted to these things. And again, as a former school teacher, I saw this. They always want to be on their phones. They always want to pull it out. They want to sneak it out. It doesn't change it in the home. So what do you think they're doing right before bed? They're on their phones. They're texting. They're talking to people. They're on video games or doing God knows what. And what happens is either they fall asleep with the phone right next to them, or the phone is literally, under the pillow, on the bed, wherever it might be in the room. Here's the problem. If you go to sleep with your phone on, right next to you, right? You're getting that Wi-Fi coming from the phone. Now, some of you say, well, so what? Who cares? It doesn't matter. As long as I'm not on the phone, right? I'm getting my sleep. The problem is the phone, when it emits these microwaves, right, getting the signal and what have you, your brain in the terms of the pineal gland, right, where it produces melatonin, over time becomes calcified. So you're not getting the ample sleep. And by the way, that signal that goes through you, because again, it's right next to you, your body thinks that it's actually lighttime. Or daytime, I should say. So you're not getting the adequate sleep, even though you're like, oh, I got 8 hours of sleep, but I still feel tired. I feel groggy. Well, the reason why is because that's why. That Wi-Fi signal is coming through your room and you're getting exposed to it. So what I always did to shut myself off from this, I always just put my phone on airplane mode at night, and that blocks off all the signals coming, at least from that phone, right next to me. And also put it in a Faraday bag, a case, so none of those rays will emit out to where I am. Shouldn't it be anywhere near you? And really, if you want to be really protective, you really should be shutting your Wi-Fi off at night when everyone's going to sleep. That's really what it comes down to. Once everyone's going to bed, you really should be unplugging that or turning off the device in the house. And then when you wake up in the morning, you turn it back on. Now, some people will argue, of course, well, what if there's an emergency? I might need it. Okay, well then, you should keep the phone in the other room then, away from you. Again, that way these signals aren't crossing over to where you're sleeping. Again, that goes for adults as well. And again, let's not even forget these smartphones, the lithium-ion batteries in them. They act as a microwave. That's what they are. And again, a smartphone should never be any closer to your body than, get this, 15 millimeters. So about the diameter of roughly a dime. Should be any closer to your body than that at the bare minimum. Now, some have recommended 10 to 15 inches. Again, never keep your phones in your pockets, too. Ladies or gentlemen. Or right next to your head when you're talking, by the way. By the way, get this statistic here. You're never going to believe this. 17 minutes a day next to your head. So let's say you're on the phone. You're talking to someone, half hour, 45 minutes. And you just have that phone right glued next to your head. Just 17 minutes, though. Next to your head for 10 years, each day. Increase the risk of cancerous tumors like glioblastomas at 60% increase. Can you believe that? 60%! I mean, it's ridiculous, when we see these things and how detrimental they are to our physical health as well. So again, imagine if it's in your front pocket, fellas. Or ladies, if it's in your back pocket. It's right next to your reproductive organs. What do you think that's going to do to them? Sterility? Cancer? Yeah, I think so. So if you have the phone, whenever I went anywhere with my phone, I'd always just have it in my hand. I never put it in my pockets. Or if it was in my pocket, like if I had to have it with me, I'd always shut it off first and then put it in my pocket. But you don't want it right next to you. You don't want it right next to your body. Okay? So if you have to be on a phone call, get the AirPods out. Connect them. Don't get the wireless ones because, again, that signal goes directly between the two through your brain. Not a good idea. So get the wired ones if you have to be on a phone call, and that way you can have the phone away from you while you're talking or put it on speakerphone. Very, very important that you do that. So the next problem is if you're a parent and for some reason you're giving your 8-year-old an iPhone, which, again, why would you do that in the first place? But I understand that's the norm now. But here's the thing. If you are a parent and you want your kid to have a phone with them, because they're getting older or they're driving or whatever it is, get them a flip phone. They don't need these iPhones. Like if you're so paranoid about things like emergencies as a concern, get them a flip phone. That way they can text or call you. And again, there's no access to the internet. They don't need it. Again, no one under 18 really needs one of these, by the way. In fact, none of us really even do need these, to be honest with you. We just want them. It makes things a little bit more convenient, of course. But the kids are not using them to be productive. They're not using them for work or what have you. And again, they're getting used to taking pictures and doing inappropriate things with them. So why start them off like that when they're 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, 12? They don't need this. They don't need to be exposed to all this. They should be outside, learning, things of that nature, not cooped up with these cell phones. And again, your child's health is obviously your responsibility. And I think it's more important that they're safe. And by the way, so is their brain health as well and how the brain is wired. So I wanted to go over this with you. So if you see people on the cell phones, the iPads, turn them off. You go to a restaurant now, everyone's on their iPad. You go to a coffee shop, everyone's sitting there on their iPads. No one's talking. And we wonder why we're depressed. No one's talking. It's all fake. Not that it's fake in a sense, but talk to people. Go out. Socialize. Have eye contact. You go out and you see people just sitting on these phones all day. Why even leave the house then? We should be going out. We should be interacting. We should be understanding, obviously, how to interact with people. Kids today don't know how to do that because all their interaction comes from online. Or they're playing video games, talking trash to people online. They think they can go talk to people like that in life now. This is the reality of the situation. So get them away from these things. Get them away from the constant video games. You're going to have video games. Just set a time. Maybe a half hour a day. Don't let them talk to adults playing video games. I mean, come on. It's ridiculousness. We got to get kids away from this. The sooner, the better, I say. All right, moving on. Another very tragic topic, I'd have to tell you. This is the Associated Press. It says Italy now recognizes the crime of femicide and punishes it with life in prison. So some of you are saying, what the hell is femicide? Why is this important? Well, Italy's parliament on Tuesday of last week approved a law that introduces femicide into the country's criminal law and punishes it with life in prison. Now, the vote coincided with the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, again, a day designated by the UN General Assembly. The law won bipartisan support from the center-right majority and the center-left opposition in the final vote in the lower chamber, passing it with roughly 237 votes. So many people are probably saying to yourselves, what the hell does femicide mean? What is the definition, Gervais? Why is femicide a thing? Why is it important? Why do we care about this? Well, again, you probably shouldn't really care about it too much. But the idea that we name things femicide instead of a homicide, right? It really just comes back to what is the word? Feminism? There we go. I always try to forget these things and, got to remember them from time to time. But here we go. We have the feminists now are working to categorize murdering as femicide if you kill a woman. Nothing if you're a male, of course, though. Nothing there. Why do we pick these stupid words? Why does this have to be in our vernaculars that they come up with these ridiculous terms? And again, I suppose, really, being a misogynist is even worse than being a murderer, right? A man who kills a woman is obviously a misogynist, right? To a certain extent, I'd have to tell you. And of course, deserving of a special law now, we have to categorize it as, femicide, right? Well, why stop there? Why stop at femicide? Paul Craig Roberts says in his article regarding this, saying, why not call, why forbid transgender side if you kill a transgender person? Or a homosexual side. But not, of course, not for, toxic white heterosexual men. Obviously, they're the only safe people we could kill without giving it a special name. Obviously murder is wrong. I'm not saying that. But why do we have to feel the need to take names of certain things and change them? Obviously, killing someone is wrong. And it should be against the law. Why are they giving a special name for simply just killing women? Now, of course, this comes as a response as the number of series of killings and other violence targeting women in Italy. And obviously the law being backed by Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni and includes stronger measures against gender-based crimes, including stalking and revenge porn. So let me ask you this. The law specifically calls out to murder. Why not rape? Why stop there? Why not? How about physical abuse? Is that femicide too? Again, when you put stupid names in stupid categories, it kind of denotes the serious issue itself. Now, obviously, there's public outcry and debate about the violence against women. Obviously, as men, we should be protecting our women. Absolutely, 100%. Here's the problem, though. The problem comes from you opening up your borders to everybody under the sun. Don't believe me? Well, that's really the case, folks. That's what it comes down to. That's what you're seeing here. I mean, I'm just telling you how it is. So don't kill the messenger here. But here we go. This is the same exact situation we're seeing here. And again, it seems curious that the law only applies, again, to the murder, not to the rape. We can look at many European governments. Go look at the UK. Go look at Sweden. Go look at Norway. Go look at Germany. Again, look at France. Look at Italy. They're all the same as far as their policies towards, obviously, opening up their country to immigrant invaders from North Africa, from the Middle East, right? People that do not share your values. And they see these Western women. Obviously, they're not wearing the Sharia law type garbs, obviously. And they feel they can do this to these women. They feel they can attack them. They feel they can kill them. That's their value system. Not every Muslim. Don't come out here and tell me, well, not every Muslim. I understand it's not every Muslim. I'm talking about the radicalized ones. The ones that want to issue Sharia law into the West. But in effect, these Muslim invaders have acquired the de facto rights to do so to, obviously, these white European women. We just saw this in, where was it? I think it was in Denmark. I read to you just the other day. Let somebody off. Didn't matter, right? He's a victim of his circumstance. He didn't understand it, right? They said that in Sweden once. Well, they don't really understand the laws. Okay, well, if they don't really understand the laws, what the hell are they doing in your country? But it's fine if you're ignorant of the law? Or you're dumb, you can't figure it out? So possibly this indicates that people of color have a higher status than, of course, the native white women in the Tower of Babel now, that comprises the Western civilization we find ourselves in. This is ridiculous. Parker Roberts talks right here. He says, I reported on a European court ruling that dismissed rape charges against 2 immigrant invaders on the grounds that their rape of a white woman was just an expression of their cultural values, and in their value system did not qualify as a crime. So, why isn't murder just an expression of cultural values then? Can we argue our way out of murder now in the West? This is the stupidity, really, of the West, which is dying as a result of low birth rates. And again, this ushering in this stupid viewpoint that if you're from another country, you can just come in and start killing people. You can come in and start raping the women. You can rape the children. It's okay. Hey, it's a part of it's their system. They're just sharing their culture with you, don't you know? And how dare you for not being so diverse in your train of thought? Or should I say your indoctrination? So, obviously, from the standpoint of the international movement for the elimination of violence against women, it does seem that rape does not count as violence against women then. The AP writer in the story tells us that it, lays the blame for violence against women on Italy's patriarchal culture. It's the white men of Italy. It's your fault. Why haven't you been doing this before, guys? Come on. You should be doing it. Hey, get in on it. This is the sickness of the left, don't you know? And, of course, the stupidity. Now, I can't fault Italy for, holding people accountable. But why do you need the word femicide? It's wrong to attack anybody and kill anybody, man, woman, or child. That is innocent, of course. So in other words, it's, white toxic males' fault for the immigrant invaders that raped the white women, though. That's what it comes down to. I said this before. I said this again. Prime Minister Maloney, deport these people from your countries. Do it in Italy. Do it in France. Well, you're not going to get anything from Macron. Starmer in the UK? No, nothing there. Connolly in Ireland? Forget it. Merz? Oh, Mr. Merz. He's going to set up an army in Germany. Yeah, right. You going to do anything about the immigrant invaders in your country? Or in Austria? Or in Sweden? Or Norway? Now, the only people that get are the Poles, Hungary, and Russia, it seems. Maybe they're the only ones that really want to survive. Spain, forget it. Again, if they don't wake up soon, that's it. It's over. Game over. 30 years from now, 50 years from now, goodbye. And what are they going to call these countries? Are they just going to call it all one big caliphate? The Muslim Caliphate of Europe? Maybe that's what they'll call it. They'll just combine everything. There'll be a nice one world government there. Oh, the elites would love that. Don't you think? They would love it. Absolutely love it. Well, again, I have nothing really more to tell you about that in particular, folks. Just the idiocy, again, that we allow this to happen, and that we have to come up with a term now to call femicide now the new gender violence against women. Well, all violence against women, primarily. Obviously, a woman can attack a woman. But wouldn't that qualify as femicide as well, though? So, again, I'm lost on the terminology. Address the problem where it's coming from. Obviously, it's coming from what's happening in your country. Just thought I'd bring that up to you. Which brings me to my next point, though. This is very important, too. In Ireland. Ireland. Beautiful country. Certainly was a beautiful country. PJ Media has this article now. Let's get right into this. It says, is Ireland about to erupt into a civil war over illegal immigration? Well, one can only hope so. Unless they choose not to survive. That could be the case here. But it says here, official details surrounding the alleged rape of a 10-year-old Irish girl by a 26-year-old asylum seeker. We have those in America, too, remember? We had one that just tried to, well, he did. Shot two ICE agents in D.C., killing one of them. Yep, we have these asylum seekers here, too. Why we let these people into our country still is mind-boggling to me, but nonetheless, it's happening. And people are upset about this, right? They're talking about a system now that protects the victim, not only the victim, but the alleged predator as well. Why aren't we just protecting the victims here? The Irish Times reports that police have been unable to speak to a 10-year-old girl who was allegedly sexually assaulted in West Dublin last month due to medical advice, whatever the hell that means. But on top of it, the alleged perpetrator in the case cannot be identified due to the nature of the charge. The unidentified man is accused of sexual assault on the girl back in October 20th of 2025 after the girl went missing from care. This is devastating, really, when you hear about these things. And let me just go over some of this with you. And the result by the men of Ireland, I think, is indicative of just how people have had enough of this nonsense. They've really had enough of this nonsense. Now, the Irish news media has reported that the suspect in the rape case arrived in Ireland 6 years ago from Africa. He failed his application in the EU for international protection in 2024 and was ordered to be deported in March. Well, that didn't happen, obviously. Certainly didn't happen. But now they're facing backlash. You're seeing protesters waving the Irish flag, green, white, and orange. Some are chanting, get them out, get them out. They've had enough of this. They've had enough of their women being raped, their children being raped and attacked by these illegal invaders who have no right to even be there. But due to the policies of, the government, they usher these people into these countries, and the fabric of society is broken down. That's really what it comes down to. But it seems that the men have had enough, and I'm very happy to see that the Irishmen have taken a stand against this, and they've had enough. They're sick of it. They're sick of this crap. Let me go over some things with you, though, just in case you think I'm just being callous about the whole situation, or, I have a certain position. I really don't. I'm just telling you it is how it is. Here we go, though. Ireland, as of late, is allowing 72,000 wards of the state annually. That means every single year. So this importation of third worlders since the mid-90s, and right now has doubled in numbers since pre-pandemic levels, so since COVID. By 2020, 1 in 5 residents in Ireland were foreign-born. Understand that. So you have a fifth of the population not being born there. To make matters worse, they just elected Catherine Connolly, a self-described socialist and a pacifist, by the way. And by the way, she's so crazy and radical lunatic that she wants to keep, the suicide in slow motion of the Irish people with pro-immigration positions that she has, so she wants open borders. Despises tightening asylum legislation, so she wants more asylum seekers to come to the country. And has pledged to build an inclusive republic. Focused on compassion, diversity, and unity, of course. Of course. Of course it's you. Well, hey, they're sharing their diversity with you every single damn day, aren't they? Sharia law, obviously the values of raping young children, women, right? Go look at Italy. They had to come up with a new word to describe it. Where's the compassion too, by the way? When they attack a woman. When you see in France, they throw a woman down a flight of stairs, shoving her down there. A man from North Africa or the Middle East. Where's the compassion? Where's the diversity, by the way? Don't they want to become Frenchmen? Or Italian? Or Irish? No, of course not. They keep their value. Yours can go straight to hell. And of course, unity. Well, the unity, of course, is you do what they want. The unity is you have to accept their way of life, their cultural values, so to speak. And of course, Connolly loves all this. And of course, the idea with the fertility rates, among the white native population is about 1.5 per woman. And by that I mean native woman. So the notion that they can't keep up the native demographic, of course, because it falls below 2, is a big problem. It should be 2.1 in every single country. So while 25 to 30% of the overall births have been to non-Irish women, almost a third of babies born in Ireland are not Irish, if you will. So naturally, Connolly comes out and supports abortion, same-sex marriages, like another suicide of the nation itself, obviously promoting depopulation. How are these migrants sharing their culture with the natives in Ireland? Right. By the way, if you go online, you can't even find any stats about the migrant crime rates because, of course, documenting it would be racist of the Irish people, of course, in their own country. But, since I know how to research, I found some information about rapes in Ireland and about how they've increased in recent years, with nearly 3 times that of the EU average. Why is that? It's one of the highest in all of Europe. I mean, the UK just takes the cake on that, but Ireland is not too far behind. So as we've learned, the migrant population has, been being brought in, has increased in recent years since the COVID pandemic. And at the same time, you see this influx of more migrants coming in, double the EU standards. You're seeing a drastic increase in the number of rapes. It's almost like there's a correlation. I'll let you figure that out for the catalyst for all this, of course. But, people have had enough. They've had enough. They don't want this. They didn't ask for this. It was just brought upon them. And as a result, over time, things get worse and worse and worse. And people can't take it anymore. They're sick of seeing these things. They don't want this. There's now a group now in Ireland, and really there should be one in every single one of these countries, by the way. It's called the New Republican Movement, in which it popped up with a new video here. I want to play it for you momentarily. But they accuse, obviously, those in power in Ireland of facilitating mass immigration and indoctrination of children in schools. And it's these black-clad men. Some of them are holding guns, by the way. And one's reading it, and you can't tell who they are. They're wearing sunglasses, ski masks. They're all in black, just so you get the idea of what I'm about to play for you, since you can't see it. But here they are. This is what they have to say, and I want you all to hear this.
To the people of Newry, Mourne and Down, we, the New Republican Movement, have watched their councillors and MLAs over the past 12 months. The level of disrespect shown to the people who put you into power, this cannot be ignored any longer. We are proud men of Ireland. We are patriots. Your policies and decision-making in regards to flooding our communities with undocumented military-aged men is not acceptable. We will not sit back any longer and watch our culture and religion destroyed by the people we put in power. Also, the sexual indoctrination of our children in schools has not went unnoticed either. The New Republican Movement will take immediate action against anyone who threatens our ways of life and the safety of our women and children. We have your addresses and known your movements. Every one of you are legitimate targets as of today. The New Republican Movement, the 28th of 11/25.
Wow. So they've had enough. They said, we didn't ask for this. We don't want this. Did we say we want this? These hordes of people coming in from all over North Africa and the Middle East coming here? Destroying their country? Not assimilating to their values? If that's even possible? I mean, this is the serious situation. People have had enough. And you're starting to see it a little bit more. You're starting to see it through parts of the UK as well. People are protesting this. They've had enough. They don't want this. They don't want this at all. You're seeing it in Germany. And the local police seems to be benign to all this. In fact, the local police commissioner, Justin Kelly, apparently unaware that the, American media redefined what a peaceful protest is during the Black Lives Matter unrest in America in 2020, said this was obviously not a peaceful protest regarding people just holding flags and saying, get them out, get them out. He described their actions as thuggery, of course. He said this mob was intent on violence against the Gardaí, which is the Irish police. Yep. So things are changing. Things are changing. These people have had it. And they don't want this. They don't want this in their country. They want to preserve Ireland as it is with Irish people. That's what they want. And will they succeed? I don't know. They have a lunatic in charge of the country who's going to continue to do this. So really, the leadership of Ireland is destroying Ireland, if that makes any sense to anybody. This is what's happening right now. These are the people that are destroying the country. Their own people are killing their country. We've seen it in the United States. You see it in the UK, Spain, France, all these countries, Germany. Germany's had enough right now, though. They're saying we've had enough of being told we're Nazis, we're this and that. We're sick of hearing this. We want to focus on Germany. And the nationalistic movements are really going to be the ones that continue to move in Europe right now. They've had enough of what's going on with Ukraine, giving so much money that they can, if they even can do that, and focusing on that versus focusing on their own countries. Again, go look at Hungary, go look at Poland, go look at Russia. Immaculate, beautiful. When you go there, you see Polish people in Poland. You see Hungarians in Hungary. You see Russians in Russia. That's indicative of what the West was. And now what do you see now? You see the downtown areas destroyed, full of migrants, full of trash, full of crime. They're no-go zones. You're seeing more mosques being built up than Christian churches. It's a big problem for these people that live in these countries. And you're seeing it starting in places like Dearborn, Michigan, in parts of Texas. All these issues are a major, major problem erupting all throughout the West. Will it get solved? Well, I can pray, can't I? I can pray. All right, moving on. Zelensky. Let's talk Zelensky since we just talked about Ukraine. Why not? Zelensky's meeting with the U.S. envoy canceled after no real progress in the 5-hour Moscow talks. Well, the reason they're not going anywhere, by and large, is a result of Zelensky himself refusing to agree to Russia's terms. Let's all understand that. I think we can all understand that. So now we have these Russian negotiations on the Ukraine conflict concluded in the Kremlin after some 5 hours of intense negotiations, which had reportedly gone into the late evening. This, of course, would be with the Russian presidential aide Yuri Yushakov, indicated that the U.S. side of Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. Why Jared Kushner's there, I have no idea. Why even Steve Witkoff is there, I have no idea. Where the hell is Marco Rubio? He's our Secretary of State. Why isn't he brokering a peace deal? Where is he? Does anybody know? I know he was on Hannity last night, but where the hell is he? Why is he not doing this? And Jared Kushner has no position in the government. Why is he there? Again, these are questions that should have answers to them. What could Steve Witkoff do on behest of the State Department? I'm confused about this. What leverage does he have? Well, he can make a deal. Okay, well, so what? It needs to come from Rubio. By the way, Lavrov also was not there, and the people are saying Lavrov wasn't there because Rubio, his counterpart, was not there. So again, I don't know what these talks are going to result in, if anything. But they presented 4 more documents concerning the peace settlement during the Kremlin talks, but nothing came as a result. They wanted to say that some American proposals are acceptable to Russia while others are not. Listen, all this has to come from Russia. You got to understand this. everything that results from this, the peace treaty that hopefully will come as a result of all this, this has to come from Russia. They are the victors of this war. Now, I know some of you have, you listen to Fox News, you hear some of the people come on and say, well, Ukraine is holding out, they're doing great. No, stop. Let's just stop. Ukraine has no chance to win this. Zelensky is really even in no power as the de facto president after he suspended the elections to negotiate really anything. It's got to come from Trump, who really should be the face of NATO, come and say, listen, this is over. We are not going to fund you at all. And you need to do this before there is some resemblance of Ukraine left, or else you're going to lose the entire thing. If you want to fight on your own, have at it. Have at it, Hoss. Right? So let's go over this. Russia, by the way, Russia's still advancing despite what they're telling you on the news media. Russia has now completely taken over the city of Pokrovsk. I can't even say the word. Pokrovsk. There you go. As well as, what is this? Myroned in the Donetsk Oblast of Ukraine. And some 2,000 Ukrainian soldiers now remain in this area in eastern Ukraine. However, the advancement by the Russians, now which is gaining traction, again, due to the Ukrainian soldiers dying on the front lines or simply just surrendering. And again, it seems like the morale is really low, and this war should be coming to an end really soon, unless, of course, Zelensky wants Russia to take more land. Again, the idiocy by our so-called experts that we, again, continue to hear. We've heard this as of late from, the talking heads, David Petraeus, Keith Kellogg, General Jack Keane, Ben Hodges. I mean, they're either delusional or they're simply lying to the American people. One or the other. That can't be two separate things. Maybe both. Who knows? Again, just to be clear, again, as this is being said by former UN Weapons Inspector Scott Ritter, he said that Russia today builds 1,000 uranium-2 bombs, these missiles, each day. They build 1,000 of them. They build Oreshnik missiles, which are, again, intermediate-range ballistic missiles created after President Trump took us out of the INF Treaty, which was the Intermediate-Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, back in 2019. By the way, these things can travel up to 3,415 miles. That's 7,610 miles per hour. Not a lightweight munition, folks. Just thought I'd tell you that. It's faster than their Mach 10s, by the way. They also have the Iskander short-range ballistic missiles as well. I mean, they have so many different missiles. And just to be clear, on a given day in this war, they only use about 500, anywhere from 3 to 500, 550 of these uranium missiles. And they've been building these for the past several months. So that tells us their stockpile is very great right now. And again, the idea that NATO wants to come out and carry out preemptive strikes would even test the idea of this incompetence and irresponsibility. It just shows you how delusional all these leaders are. Why can't they come to reality? And the reality of the situation is not that Ukraine is holding them off, because they're not. They've taken Pokrovsk. They've taken the city. And they're going to take more. So, we hear these people. Putin was asked about this, though. He was asked about what was said by the Italian general. I think his name is Dragano, if I'm not mistaken. And this is what he had to say about this.
I've said that 100 times. We have no plans of fighting against Europe. But if Europe wants to fight and they start this fight, then we are ready right now. There is no doubt about this. But the only question is, if Europe starts the war, unleashes this war, because that's not Ukraine. With Ukraine, we use some surgical means. We are trying to be really careful. Because you understand why. This is not a war in the direct sense of the word. And Europe, all of a sudden, wants to start a war, and if it does, start a war, then very rapidly there might be a situation where we have no one to negotiate with.
Okay. Makes sense, doesn't it? Who is negotiating on behalf to end this conflict? We have people that continue to not accept the truth. Again, what can both Witkoff and Kushner negotiate? Can anyone do that? They're looking at options here. They're saying, who is going to negotiate this with us? So President Trump is obviously in this position to tell NATO they are on their own. If they want to finish or continue the war, they can continue on with the war. If the U.S. pulls out, though, and I think that you're going to probably start to see that, you will see the NATO support completely collapse. Kushner and Witkoff should be relaying this message to the Kremlin. The U.S. is out of this. We're done with this. We'll accept your terms. And again, it's the only rational position you could really take. And again, likely this is to also give something to President Trump and obviously make him save face here. Because there is no winning position for this. We've wasted hundreds of billions of dollars on this conflict, and nothing has come as a result of this. Nothing. Putin has laid out what he wants for peace negotiation. We should accept that. This is the only rational position to take. What did we get, by the way? And I say we, I say Americans, particularly the American taxpayer. What did we get with this $350 billion investment in Ukraine? Besides hyperinflation and a whole lot of people that sit on these military-industrial complex boards like General Jack Keane becoming independently wealthy. What do we get from this? Do we make Europe a safer place? Did we stave off the Russians? I don't think so. I don't think so. And the only people in the room that seem to understand this are the Russians. They're not taking the bait from, again, this hyperbolic threats of we can, as NATO, invade Russia or go to war with Russia. They're sitting back and saying, well, hey, if they'd like to, we're ready to go. And believe you me, they are ready to go. There's no one protecting the airspace over Europe, folks, by the way. Just thought I'd be clear on that with you. They can't stave off Russia. None of them can. Even as a whole, the EU can't do anything. Or NATO, for that matter. The only ones that could go to war, possibly, the United States, but do we want a war with Russia? I don't think we do. Again, their weapon systems, except for nuclear weapons, are highly superior than ours. Just, again, wanted to bring that up to you. So again, we can try to go with this bullying tactic. I don't think it's working. And again, Putin is happy just going on with this war. That's what we're seeing right now. And by the way, we're seeing, as a result of all this chaos happening in Europe right now, we're seeing the same thing happening out in Venezuela. What do I mean by that? Well, Newsweek has an article saying that Maduro spoke out after a rare call with President Trump, and he said that the exchange was amicable. Okay, good. I like amicable. That's good. He said that if that call means that steps are being taken towards a peaceful and respectful dialogue from state to state, from country to country, welcome dialogue, welcome diplomacy, because we will seek peace, is what Maduro had said. Trump didn't really give any details about the phone call itself, but the call comes as Trump has continued to escalate military pressure on Venezuela with Caribbean boat strikes, which again are illegal, and of course airspace restrictions. Now, Maduro, meanwhile, has been facing mounting pressure over his potential departure from office amid U.S. accusations linking to narco-trafficking networks, which he denies. And again, I've said this to you time and time again, the idea that Venezuela is putting all these drugs in fishing boats or speedboats that can maybe go 60 miles at best. I mean, there's no way you would bring this out into the greater Atlantic Ocean or the Caribbean and ship them to the United States. How are you going to refuel? They can only go 60 miles. They have to go 1,500 miles. And it just doesn't make any sense logically. But Venezuela officials have now accused the Trump administration of now targeting the country's natural resources. Well, of course. They have the highest petroleum reserves in the Western Hemisphere. Of course they would. They also have gold reserves, by and large, too, among others. But Maduro has now rallied supporters, framing the crisis as a fight for sovereignty amid economic hardship and, of course, international isolation. But you know what's interesting here? I read through some of this. Maduro said he told Trump he would be willing to leave office if he and his family received a full legal amnesty, including the lifting of U.S. sanctions and the closure of a high-profile case of the International Criminal Court. And, of course, this has come as a result of the U.S. labeling the Cartel of the Suns, a foreign terrorist organization, alleging that Maduro leads the group and includes in this group senior members of his government. So they're saying it's a terrorist government. However, one thing that was interesting, though, is, well, where is it here? Oh, he says that Maduro said on the call of Wednesday, he said, I can say that the call and the conversation was a tone of respect. I can say that it was a cordial conversation between the President of the United States and the President of Venezuela. So this is interesting stuff that we're seeing here, that he said he would actually leave office. Again, I find that hard to believe that he would do that, especially after China now reaffirms its support for Venezuela. So this is interesting that other countries are now starting to get into this conflict here that we're seeing starting to build up in Venezuela. We have the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman, Li Jian, on Wednesday said that the country of China now opposes external interference in Venezuela's affairs amid rising tensions between the South American country and the United States. He went on to say that China stands against any action that violates the purposes and principles of the UN Charter or infringes a country's sovereignty and security, and opposes external interference in Venezuela's domestic affairs under any pretext. China calls on all parties to keep Latin America and the Caribbean as a zone of peace and prevent further escalation. Well, this announcement is obviously not damning, of course, but the idea that China could possibly throw support in here, and if China throws support in here, would Russia throw support in there to protect this country? Again, which they also have resources both countries want. But, China is one of the dictator Nicolas Maduro's most crucial key allies, of course, in the region, and has provided numerous forms of support for the rogue socialist regime, especially in recent years. Beijing has prominently helped the Venezuelan regime evade U.S. oil sanctions, including reports indicating that Venezuela is also evading sanctions by its rebranding. And, of course, bringing in China-bound oil shipments as Brazilians using Malaysia, as a key transport shipment hub. So we see this. We see the support coming from China now. Again, we see the support of Venezuela coming from China amid these ongoing military deployments in the region. Do we want to really get China involved in this? Do we want this to happen? Do we want China to come in? Do we want a ground war in Venezuela where we send our boys down there to what? How did that go for us, by the way, in Iran? Venezuela is about twice the size of Iran. Excuse me, Iraq. I'm sorry. How are we going to do this? How are we going to go into a country that is that much bigger? We didn't have success there, and it's a whole different type of terrain in terms of a ground war. Do you really want to go into a Vietnam-style war again in South America? Do we really want this? Did we not learn anything from Vietnam? Well, only time will tell, folks. Only time will tell. And I like that we want to be diplomatic, of course, but the idea that we're even considering this in a time where the economy is a major issue, to me, is pretty ridiculous in and of itself. Just thought I'd bring that up with you. Oh, by the way, one more quick thing before we end today's show. Listen to the Daily Star. It says, Epstein Pedo Island exposed as new pics show a dentist chair, mask, and blackboard with names on them. Oh, what the hell's going on here? So if you look at this picture in the Daily Star, it's really odd. It looks like a room in a spa, and it's got like a table and like a cupboard next to it, and it has all these different faces. It looks like they're made of plastic, and they're all different faces. And they're around this room, and in the middle of the room there is a dentist chair. And again, it's just really, really weird. It's chilling photos. This was in one of his private Caribbean islands of the U.S. Virgin Islands. And I don't know what to make of this. There's other pictures, too, of the island. None are this creepy, of course. Another picture shows a room with bookshelves and a big chalkboard in Epstein's home with words power and deception written on it. I don't know. I don't know what to make of all this. We haven't really heard anything really more about this case. Nothing is coming to light here. Will more of these creepy pictures come as a result of this? I'm sure I don't know. God only knows what else is photoed from this creepy island. I talked to you about this, though. I talked to you about the dental chair. Remember I told you that? I said it was in the shower, though. God knows there's another one someplace else. Folks, I just want to say thank you for tuning in today's show. I hope you found the articles and information useful. All the articles, by the way, and their headlines are posted within the podcast. Don't forget, folks, to keep your house in order. So please keep your houses in order. Don't forget to keep storing up your food, water, ammo, money, gold, tools, fuels, supplements, anything you need to be self-sufficient. And I'll see you here tomorrow on the next Mark and Dre Show. Be good. Stay busy. God bless.